Hey guys, it's been a little while, but I'm back with something very special. This is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Mini, otherwise known as the SNES Mini or SNES Classic, depending on where you live. And this is the PAL version, which is totally different to the American NTSC version. Basically identical to the Super Famicom in Japan. So of course on the front cover here we have this great classic style with black lines and backgrounds, the bright red. It really, looks the part, very similar to the original Super Nintendo box. We have our, of course, little mini Super Nintendo up there, as well as our two lovely controllers. And those are actually the things that I'm most interested in checking out, because really I haven't found a single Super Nintendo reproduction which has actually been able to feel anything like the original. But beyond that, we have this lovely classic artwork of Mario from Super Mario World. That artwork was everywhere when I was little. That's a really nostalgic piece of artwork to me. 20 plus 1 games pre-installed, of course the plus 1 being Star Fox 2, the unreleased Star Fox game. We have the classic Super Nintendo / Super Famicom logo for the PAL and Japanese regions. And we have the original Nintendo seal of quality. We certainly haven't seen that for a very long time. I honestly kind of wish they would bring that back just as a nostalgia thing. Over here, it says that AC adapter is not included, so you basically got to charge it with a iPhone adapter. And then we have the M rating for mature due to crude humour and sexual references. And on the back of the box, it basically says that that's only due to Earthbound. Which is interesting. I would have thought maybe Contra-free or maybe Super Ghouls and Ghosts might have a bit more of that sort of rating, but anyway. Okay, so distributed by Nintendo Australia. This is an Australian version of the box. Please read the enclosed documentation. And then we have a Link to the Past Link artwork and some Super Mario Kart artwork. It tells you everything that's in the box, so we're going to look at the console, the controllers, a high-speed HDMI cable, a USB power supply cable, and an operations manual. And of course we have the HDMI logo there. On the side over here, it is the usual sort of blurb. It's a Super Retro Blast from the past with a return of the all-time fan favorite Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This mini-sized Super NES Classic Edition system is packed with over 20 pre-installed classic Super Nintendo Entertainment System games from the 90s, fully loaded and ready to play using original-style Super NES Classic controllers. Whew! And of course, we get some great screenshots there of Mario World, Mario Kart, Star Fox, and F-Zero. Now, I actually didn't think I would get one of these. Like many people, of course, these are, they're pretty hard to get items. But thanks to my lovely and generous parents, I actually did manage to get one. So, this is something I really did and R about, because I do actually own a lot of these games in their original boxed forms. But my Super Nintendo is actually pretty much dead in the water right now. I've been trying to fix it and been trying to put it back together. So unfortunately I won't actually be able to compare the system. I've got some lovely parts from my Super Nintendo sitting here. So that's great. But, so I thought this was a good thing, and also there are some games in the PAL regions which I just can't get even with a converter. So we can see a full list of all the different games included, and, ones like Super Mario RPG and Earthbound. Super Mario RPG just doesn't work on a converter, and Earthbound I've heard mixed reports on, and Earthbound is just way too expensive in general. And of course, when you get something like Star Fox 2, which has never been released before, it's really hard for a collector to pass this up, if you have the opportunity to get it. Thankfully in Australia, it's a little bit easier to get your hands on than it would be in, say, America. But, I love seeing this wall of fantastic artwork from the Super Nintendo generation. I love all these boxes and all these designs. We even get some classic, original Star Fox artwork there, which is great. In fact, you can even see that they've, even got these little sort of blurbs from the original boxes. Where racing becomes an adventure for Super Mario Kart. It also explains how to use the device using the AC adapter. It also has the little Star Fox 2 logo, which looks very swish. And we have a full list of all the games. Including actually several that I have not played before, like Contra-free, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, of course Star Fox 2, F-Zero I've played before but never actually owned it, Super Punch-Out, Kirby's Dream Course. That'll be interesting to check out. I've got no idea what that's on there. But anyway, so it also says down here, Earthbound is classified M, all other games included classified G to PG. So funny to think of Earthbound as an M game, but anyway, let us actually open this up and see what we have. So, just a little slot there, and if this will come out, hopefully without damaging the box, because it's a really nice box. I've got a little QR code there. Interesting. Okay, I'll just slide this out as best I can, trying not to knock over cameras and other objects in the room. Hang on, here we go. Here we go. Voila. Oh, this looks great. We actually have an actual Super Nintendo style consumer manual. That is actually, I believe, what the Super Famicom instruction manual does look like that came with the original Super Famicom in Japan, because I've seen that exact drawing before. So if I can actually... Here we go. Get that out. Operations manual. Health and safety, or that's just their usual stuff, of course. And we also get a diagram on using this console. Should be pretty simple. Okay, beyond that, we have the main event, which is so tiny. Actually, honestly, this box, yeah, it looks pretty big on the iPhone screen, but it's a lot tinier than I ever would have expected. Wow. Wow. This won't show up nearly as well on the camera, but this is a minuscule thing. I guess there's nothing really too complicated in it, and it feels pretty hollow, honestly. But it is just crazy that, you know, you can have a Super Nintendo but it's so small. I wish I could really give you a size comparison. That's my hand. You know, my hand basically covers the whole thing. It really is ridiculous. Now, this actually doesn't push down, so that's just there for show. We do have the original Super Nintendo logo. The actual plastic, funnily enough, does feel a lot like the original Super Nintendo plastic does. I do really like that, actually. It does feel very classic. Underneath, of course, we've got the usual Nintendo stuff, made in China, of course. Kyoto, Japan. Da-da-da. And then we have the power button. That feels pretty good, actually. That feels a lot like the original does. The eject button does nothing, and of course the reset button it takes you back to the menu. Which is, not the best design, but I can live with that. And then I believe... Now let's see if I can actually figure this out. I believe you can pull this down. And this is where your controllers are, or are they on the back? No, just a HDMI port and DCI in. Here we go. There's a little slot under here, and you can pull that out. And that's where you actually plug in your controllers. Very nice. So it's really just a nice sort of item for your desk or something. I'm actually going to plug it into my computer monitor, I think. But yeah, let's get on to the controllers, because, as I say, I'm very interested to see how these actually feel. Okay. Okay, so they actually don't feel quite as nice as the original ones. The D-pad is excellent. That's fantastic. That's very close to the original. The start and select buttons are pretty close. They feel maybe a little bit more hollow or something, but of course these are brand newer compared to the ones that I've got, which have been played with hundreds of times. The buttons actually feel quite good. They feel pretty original. But the actual controller itself and the L and R buttons feel a little bit different. The sort of texture on the controller is wrong. But just for comparison's sake, and I do actually have my original Super Nintendo controller here, which is, it's seen better days. And apart from the yellowed plastic, of course, these look pretty much identical. But my D-pad feels a lot more worn, so this will be much better as a D-pad. The start and select buttons feel more spongy on the original, which I kind of like, as opposed to these ones here, which sort of feel, I don't know, a bit more springy. Maybe it's just because they're new. But just the texture in general is much smoother and sort of cleaner and nicer on the original. Whereas the texture on this feels just a little bit rougher. Sort of more modern plastic, I guess you'd say. Which I don't quite like as much. I feel like that could get a little bit uncomfortable over time. But, I mean, it's a very, very minor niggle. This is definitely the best recreation of the Super Nintendo controller that I've ever seen. And, of course, we get not one, but two. So that is a very nice thing, especially for people that may, you know, have kids or just want to play this with their friends, I think that's a really wonderful addition. But we're actually still not done because we have, well, an HDMI cord and a power cord, so, you know, nothing too exciting, but they are there as well. But, so I guess that is your look at the, one second, Super Nintendo Classic Mini. If I can actually get it closed back up and put it in front of the camera. Voila. Again, gorgeous box. I'm going to be adding that to my my wall of stuff. I'm, you know, thinking that I can just move this up here. Thinking it might just go somewhere up there near the GameCube and Nintendo 64 or something like that. But you know, we'll see where it fits. But I've always wanted to have an original Super Nintendo box. This is not quite that, but it is pretty close. So this is probably the best I'm ever going to get because that stuff is super expensive now. Especially here in Australia, so very glad to have got this. It is very, very neat. There's our little Super Nintendo. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little look at the system. Can you tell it's been a while since I've done one of these? Probably. But anyway, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.